Got some news about your wife. Oh, to hell with my wife, Witcher. We've got bigger concerns. Such as? You've spent your life hunting monsters, but the truth is we're the monsters, Witcher. Look at us, cisgendered white males warming ourselves in front of a roaring fire while marginalised people are suffering. What are you jabbering about? I'm talking about ESG, Witcher. Social justice. Look at my men. They're all whiter than you, Witcher, and that's saying something. Now listen to me, Philip. It's not Philip anymore, Witcher. I'm Philippa now. The bloody Baroness. That's right, Witcher. I've gone trans. I don't even know what that means. It means I'm a biological male, Witcher, but I want to be more like a woman. Like Dandelion? Exactly, Witcher. I knew you'd understand.
We all know the terminology, or anytime somebody says something is getting reimagined or updated for a modern gaming audience. We know what that means. They're going to put a chick in it and make it gay and lame. That's just what they're going to do. And we've seen this with the recent Indiana Jones article where they the latest Indiana Jones video game where they literally said that exact quote. Like, it's going to be an Indiana Jones for a modern audience. I mean, we know what that means. We know what that means. That means they're going to make it woke. They're going to make it progressive. They're going to make it, they're going to make it cringe. They're going to make it, you're going to have gay characters in it because you just have to. And you just know. Right now, I mean, that's basically a red flag that we all know. I mean, remember this video will save you $70.
Now we have the opportunity to tell
LGBTQ elemental P t-shirt, side half head shaved haircut, LGBTQ pins, and
a new Indiana Jones story for a modern gaming audience.
Modern gaming audience. That means they want to make sure they groom you to the max. I mean, you see, everybody knows. $70 saved, goated. Anytime somebody says they're making it for a modern audience, the men are going to be the villains and all this stuff. Well, one of the most popular games of all time, The Witcher, is also getting remade. And the dev is not afraid to remove aspects which are, quote, bad, outdated, and need to be remade. Now, The Witcher is one of the, an extraordinarily popular book. It is one of the most popular video games of all time. And now they decided, you know what? It's time to make it gay and lame. According to South Park, anyway. The Witcher Remake's developer, Fool's Theory, isn't afraid to change aspects of CD Projekt Red's original, which are, quote, bad, outdated, and need to be remade. Well, we know that The Witcher's going to be trans and black. That much we know now. Speaking to Edge Magazine via Games Radar, Fool's Theory CEO Jacob Rokaz made it clear that not every part of 2007's The Witcher will appear in the highly anticipated remake, though they didn't give any specifics as to what will and what won't make the cut. I wouldn't say that it's a highly anticipated remake. Just play the original game. You just play the original game. Quote, first and foremost, we need an honest, down-to-earth analysis of which parts are simply bad, outdated, and need to be remade, he said. Fool's Theory will simultaneously be highlighting the parts that are great, should be retained, and or are direct key pillars that can't be discarded. You know what most people want for a remake? Updated graphics, updated quality of life features, and bug fixes. That makes a perfect remaster. We don't need it revoiced. We don't need characters changed. We don't need more representation. We don't need pride flags in the game. We don't need, to remove offensive jokes. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that in a remake. What people want in a remake is the game to look better and run better. That's what we want. That's the only reason I would ever pay money for a remake. If you're going to let new developers with their own political, force their own political ideologies into these remakes, which is what they all do, I don't want it. You're not going to get my money. You're not going to get my time. I'm completely uninterested in it. And you can see they're already saying the quiet part out loud. Here's PC Gamer. Witcher Remake studio boss says it'll remake what's bad, outdated, or unnecessarily convoluted without naming the sex baseball cards we all know he's talking about. Witcher 1 is rough, gangly, utterly idiosyncratic, and fine as it is, if you ask me. Nevertheless, it's due an open-world remake, courtesy of the devs over at Fool's Theory. I don't think it's due that at all. It sounds like they aren't squeamish about updating some of the more awkward parts of CD Projekt Red's original 2007 classic. Isn't it funny? I always think this is funny when people want to do like remakes, reimaginings, updates to things that were extremely popular, right? Things that were very popular. And it never occurs to them at any point that maybe what they're remaking, maybe what they're saying is outdated, maybe what they're saying is offensive, is what, it was part of what made it a classic in the first place. Like nobody seems to know any of that. It's so dumb. Like they're so completely clueless that this is the same problem you have with like Hollywood remakes, right? They never have any of the original like minds on these products, and they go in and they're like, well, I can do it better. I've created nothing in my life. I'm just here to remake it, but I can make it better based on absolutely nothing. Based on absolutely nothing. First and foremost, we need an honest, down-to-earth analysis of which parts are bad, outdated, or unnecessarily convoluted and need to be remade. But noted that they still highlight the parts that are great, removing the bad parts and rearranging the good ones to create something that is both satisfying and still resonates with the feel of the original. The original was widely loved. This is the problem. You get these developers, you get these woke morons that come in and they think that there's inherently a problem with it, but they forget the fact that it was a best-selling game at its time. Now, he's not calling any parts out by name from The Witcher 1 that are bad and need sanding down, nor those that are great and need highlighting, but it doesn't take a detective to figure out at least some of what he's talking about. First and foremost has to be the game's absolutely buck-wild combat system. It's a sort of pseudo-rhythm thing that's how you're clicking at a particular cadence in order to defeat your enemies. I actually liked that because it's something a little different. It's a little more interesting, engaging. Versus basically just the button mashing that exists today. It's just wild button mashing. Rather than a more standard and less baffling third-person melee combat of Witchers 2 and 3. But let's not beat around the bush. The first Witcher game is legendary for great scenes, good writing, and that part where Doug Cockle says, "What is this crap?" in a tone so disaffected that you aren't sure if it's his actual reaction to the script. But it's also notorious for the sex cards. If you somehow escaped knowing this in 2024, then read on, and I'm sorry, but the first Witcher game took an almost impressively adolescent approach to the various romances. Geralt could make merry with almost every woman he encountered, or at least it felt that way, and upon pursuing any of the game's romantic lines of inquiry to their natural conclusion, would be rewarded with literal baseball-style trading card, except instead of Billy Ripken and his controversial bat, it was one of the game's women in a state of undress. Awesome. You know what I mean? Like, why would we have to remove that? It's awesome. This is what, like, these games now are like. First of all, they're gonna go back. You know how Blizzard did that? Blizzard went back after Blizzard got caught in this controversy of basically all the men working there being degenerate sex pests. They went back and took all the cleavage out of World of Warcraft. I'm not kidding. They went back and took any like cleavage out of the video game, which is such a ridiculous, absurd overreaction, but that's what they did. That's what this is doing. People are going to want to see that part of the game updated. They don't want it removed. It was more risable than anything, but luckily CDPR got it out of their system mostly for the next 2 games. Why? I liked it. I thought it was funny and cheeky. But what only got a roll of the eyes in 2007 would just seem pathetic nearly 2 decades on. I can't imagine he doesn't have the cards in mind. What do you mean pathetic? I think it would be awesome. What if they were animated cards and they were like, posing spicy gifts? I'm not saying it has to be like, adult, spicy content, but I wouldn't call it pathetic. That's what the game industry said. Like, again, anybody who thinks that it was pathetic, look at the comments. Exactly. The cards were one of the most fun things to collect in the game. I do think just a few months ago, the entire gaming industry was positively obsessed with how horny Baldur's Gate 3 was. If it's too much for a modern audience, I'm not interested. This is how disconnected. If the devs if the devs are smart, they won't ditch the cards altogether, and instead ironically poke fun at them by making them like spicy Geralt cards. Fear not, mods will add anything that was cut. I mean, everybody in the comment section is like, what are you talking about? This was a good part of the game. But the entire article is like, oh yeah, we got to remove this. It's just a perfect encapsulation of how out of touch journalists are compared to actual gamers. I won't be buying this game, in case you couldn't figure it out.